Welcome into the Energy Tech Podcast presented by OpSite Energy. Today we're joined by Bryan Fosmark from Sagepoint Energy. Welcome to ICC 2025, fellas.
Hey, Jeff. So far it's been good here in the heart of Sacramento with ICC 2025. I am your co-host of the Energy Tech Podcast, Mike Flores, and joining me is Mr. Bryan Fosmark, and he's going to talk a little bit about Sagepoint and what they do, and also give us some his experience at ICC. And with that, Bryan, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you, man. You know, I know we tried to get you on the show yesterday, and you said, hey, give me a moment, and here you are, man.
Yeah, this event's been great. It's my first year.
Is this so? Okay, this is your first time at ICC 2025. That's great. One of the key things about ICC is the energy is at a different level. So when they talk about level up, I think you can sense that here. It's a totally different. They normally have this. They used to have it in Folsom, California, on a campus, and it was very tight. Not a lot of room. And now we're here, and they've leveled up. So a couple ways that Ignition is leveled up is, number one, you've got the brand new venue. Number two is the release of 8.3, Ignition 8.3. Yeah. They have the Prove It conference that's going on right now. They've got a Prove It flavor to it. And then, of course, we got the Energy Tech Podcast. So now what you can do is talk about your experience. So that being said, what is your take on so far your time here at ICC?
Yeah, it's been very valuable to just get the opportunity to plug in with the right people. Yeah. Our company is on the lookout for really great engineering teams, firms, individuals. Yeah. Obviously the right place for Ignition.
Right. So tell me a little bit. What do you do there at Sagepoint? What is it that you do for the team, and what brought you to ICC?
Yeah, so our team is primarily focused on developing landfill sites to produce RNG.
Okay.
So renewable natural gas.
Right. Plug in, grab that methane.
Yep. And really help the environment. Right. And part of that mission includes IT and automation to help support the operations teams. And what Ignition has provided us is an ability to have vision into those operations in a real-time environment.
Yeah. So you said that, and so it sounds to me like you guys have deployed Ignition at sites, right? That's what you're doing now. So when you're talking about landfill gas, kind of give us the area that you're talking about. Wait, there goes Amy Williams right there. Just want to put the plug in there. I was hoping to get her attention. Guess not. All right. Bryan, kind of tell us what region you typically cover with Sagepoint.
Yeah, so currently all of our facilities are producing in the Midwest. Okay. We're open to all 48. So we're constantly looking for mergers and acquisitions in the space. Okay. We also have some renewable energy projects for dairy farms. So we take cow manure and we transition that into natural gas as well.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So you guys are leveraging Ignition there. Having said that, what do you think is your biggest challenge that you have, that you think, number one, what does Ignition solve for you currently? And what's kind of some of the challenges that you have seen already where you say, hey, I want to scale up Ignition, or it could probably solve X?
Yeah, so initially when we worked with Ignition, it was at the site level. So the facilities running their HMIs and really bringing in a single HMI to that space and that solution, right? So that we're not using edge providers and other HMIs in the system, we're bringing that all into Ignition. Well, we took it a step further and we deployed a central Ignition server in the cloud. Wow. And that pulls all the data through their enterprise module and brings it all into a central space. And we actually built our own web app separate from that. We use an API to call all the data sets out of that tag historian, and we are able to produce real-time data for finance. The economic compliance side has been really helpful for that reporting, as well as the environmental compliance too. So it's saved time for all of those spaces.
So are you using full-blown Ignition in the cloud, or is it Ignition Cloud Edition?
No, we deployed a full-blown Ignition.
Full-blown Ignition, absolutely.
Yeah, our desire is to at some point we put remote monitoring in place with potential remote control.
Right. Yep. Okay, so and that's robust. I think that's one of the cool things about Ignition is that when people think of its visibility in VMware in the cloud, you don't necessarily have to have a cloud edition. You can leverage full-blown Ignition.
Yep.
You know, some of the key difference, of course, as you know, are some of the controls, right? Some of the control elements that may not be in the cloud edition that are available in a full-blown edition. Um, are you guys tackling anything in regard to mobility right now? Maybe
Yeah,
leveraging some mobility.
yeah, some of our development is actually twofold. So we'll develop two separate projects
Okay.
in Ignition. One is both are in perspective, but one is built towards delivering to the desktop, so PCs,
Right.
and the other one is mobile. So we'll do them separate.
Got you. So what I'm hearing from you is that you'll do them separate, but what you're going to do is also you might maybe leverage a port 8088 for your users in the web.
Yeah.
Right. So are you serving that on a separate? You've got a separate I/O server, some of what you're doing, and then you have your, let's say, the visibility on a separate server. Or is that kind of?
It's hosted on the same server.
Hosted, okay.
We're just they're essentially attempting to access Ignition through whatever device they are.
Okay.
And we have a project that essentially tells us what device they're using first.
Got you.
So they're all accessing that initial project,
Right.
and then that project points them in the right direction.
Wow. Well, now, did you adopt Ignition, or was this something you guys had to implement and you were part of that? What did you say? When you came on, was it already in place?
I transitioned over to the IT team
Okay.
pretty swiftly, just because of my experience. I've owned IT companies in the past. I have a deep knowledge of management and business management. So they really wanted to leverage that skill in me more than
Right.
they wanted the commercial project side.
Right.
But the projects were initially developed with Ignition in mind.
Got you. So it sounds to me like you're not the typical IT guy.
No.
You know, because a lot of IT folks, the convergence, a lot of times you got convergence, but it sounds to me like you're as the dot connector in the middle between IT and OT, and you get it. And I think a lot of IT folks speak enterprise language, and on the OT side, you've got 300 plus protocols you could talk about, so it's a totally different space. But it sounds like with the advent or with Ignition as part of your projects, you've been able to really converge on both of those. So that's actual convergence, really.
Yeah, I sit in the middle. I especially work with operations directly too for that
Awesome.
UI UX development, just to
Yeah.
make sure that what we're putting in place is actually useful to the operator at that level. Because what we find is, as the end user there, they have to be able to take it on and use it in a way that's effective to them.
Right.
And without that, they sort of lose some of that effectiveness that they would get from Ignition. So they really need that time to test and use that and give feedback and propose changes to that in an environment where, since we have components and we're
Right.
containerized and we've got our deployments in both mobile and non-mobile space,
Right.
they can give us feedback and we do real-time changes for them.
Wow. So Ignition's pretty flexible. You've got lots of flexibility there. Tell me about some of maybe the most recent or some of the ongoing challenges you have in scaling Ignition. Are you looking at it for other projects? Is there some scalability you're looking at? Is there a challenge there?
Oh yeah, we're developing for mergers and acquisitions.
Okay.
So a lot of facilities will come on with any level of hardware and software that's already been deployed. A lot of times it's different SCADA systems, right?
Okay.
That you're having to work
Sure.
with. Even at times antiquated systems that are coming online that are in play simultaneously with these other systems. So what we do is we put Ignition in place at the time of purchase.
Yes.
And we will deploy it with all the tags historizing at 1 second intervals, and we'll push that to the cloud immediately so that we get immediate vision into what it is they're doing at the site at that time, regardless of what they have in place for technology.
Yes, and you remind me of some projects that I've done where it's a land and expand model. So really what you do is you M&A a facility, and surprisingly, instead of saying, well, let's deploy this SCADA system, what you're doing is exactly what Ignition was designed to do. Stand it up right next to that system. Let's say you create an OPC UA type connection, begin collecting data natively in a lot of cases because of its availability on the protocols. It can act as a middleware or a control piece, and immediately you have some really good M&A capability. You can start learning that facility, right? Is that
Oh,
what I'm hearing?
immediately. Absolutely. And
Yes. So you start
it
picking that up,
empowers the executive staff and the finance team
right?
to really help support the initiatives that are going to get that facility to make more production and get more gas in the pipe.
Right. And the other thing too is it sounds like you've cracked a nut here. I say because in M&A you're not just learning, but you might uncover things that you otherwise didn't know about that ahead of time, right?
Absolutely.
And so you're learning from that. Um, and it's not even, I mean, I wouldn't even call it a challenge because I think with Ignition, you've got that flexibility to do so, right?
Yeah, and our big challenge, a lot of our places are rural, so we're working with farms and we're working with landfills that are, in the middle of nowhere a lot of times. And connectivity is a challenge. We have a lot of line of sight, cell tower service, right?
Right.
Very unreliable. We do have some secondary failover options with ISPs in the satellite space, but
Right.
even then, the store and forward is probably the most impactful there because Ignition and its ability to store and forward that data set once we get connectivity back has been integral to our growth.
Wow. All right. So again, another feature with Ignition, you've got some store and forward capability. You've got, that ability to work with what you've got in the field. Really, I think it just adds a lot of flexibility. Is your team leveraging MQTT yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you've got areas with spotty coverage, it sounds like that you're doing that. Let me ask you this. What do you think is your biggest challenge in bringing together technology and operations? Because sometimes operations may have a different take. How do you deal with competing interests with, operations groups and the business group?
Yeah, so I definitely sit in the middle of C-suite, operations, and engineering. And the key part to that is managing relationships. It really is. Because the better I can develop relationships that are real, that are impactful, that are actually show that I care,
Yeah.
ends up going a long way. And it goes a long way for all teams. It's not just my team. Just because my team sits in the middle,
Yeah.
we do play a key role in that. But we're not the operations side, so we don't understand everything at that level. So a lot of times I'm pulling in team members into my team that have an operations background. They can speak to that and at a level that IT or automation teams simply don't have natively.
Right. So it sounds to me like you're a really because you are in the middle, you speak operations in a sense. You're basically two islands, you work with both. And that's what I'm hearing. Right?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, do you feel there's other things where you feel, hey, Mike, I think that we can deploy Ignition, in other ways? There's other things that we can potentially do. Are you able to kind of talk through that, some of that, what you're looking at?
Yeah, so the sessions here have been really impactful at that level to start to see how we can deploy AI agents in a way that makes a lot more sense to us specifically.
Yeah.
And the Prove It model is showing me that, hey, these things are happening today.
Yeah.
They're solutions that are being developed today. They're not pie in the sky. They're not, just things that we're talking about, but teams are actually putting these into action now. And I'm really excited to see what that brings us in the next 5 years.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next thing, because you brought it up. What is some of what you're seeing? You mentioned some AI. I would imagine typically a lot of folks, especially with Ignition, they tend to leverage some machine learning, right? And some artificial intelligence. The third crux to that, or the third part I always see is MCP. That seems to be part of the new piece that you kind of want to work or implement. In your mind, how do you make sure that what you guys are doing, you're following a playbook, right? Sometimes you want a playbook.
Yeah, so thankfully we're actually a small company. My C-suite supports me in everything I'm doing right now in development.
Great.
I don't have a huge barrier there and a wall to overcome. It is nice to work for private equity. So, because it really does bring a lot of the barriers down, and a lot of bureaucracy is actually discouraged.
Yeah.
We're encouraged to work together, and we can pivot on a dime. Like if we need to, we can move our development in another direction day by day, week by week, as the needs arise. And like you were talking about, where you're developing scope in a way that at times we're discovering what that scope is.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, the analogy I give is you're basically jumping over a cliff and building the plane on the way down.
Yeah.
That's really what you're doing here. Especially in renewable natural gas, renewable spaces, and landfill gas, you don't have the budget of Chevron. Okay, so you can hide $1 million with Chevron, right? And if you're listening to your Chevron, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that, in budget wise, that's very large. So, talk to me about how you've seen Ignition help you in 3 areas. The first one is cost. The second one is complexity. And the third one is cybersecurity.
Yeah, so from the cost standpoint, we can develop things a lot quicker with Ignition, especially with its capabilities in the API that they have. The interconnectivity between our other systems has been great. I really like that. I love the open source model. So and the ability to use modules in ways where you can test them prior to deployment and decide, hey, do I need this module or do I not? You can actually test in a live environment and without having to go through full licensing ahead of time. We've had times where we've tested and go, well, it didn't really work the way we thought. Let's move along. But then certain modules were like, we need this, we want it now.
Right.
So from the cost standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to develop Ignition.
Yeah. How about complexity? You find it easy on deployment?
So I like the way the UDT works. So tags are important, especially when we go to rename tags throughout an entire organization.
Right.
We streamline our tag providers so that we can track all the way from the PLC up to distribution. Right. So based upon how we name our tags, we can see all the way back to the PLC and where that originated from, if it was the derived value, live value, or a raw value.
Right. Wow. Talk to me a little bit about addressing cybersecurity, especially with MQTT, right?
Yeah. So the ability to actually secure the server at the site level has been really good through SSL. We are actually going to start using SSO as well to authenticate our users. We love the ability to VPN into our sites and be able to access the Perspective module through a browser. So that's been really helpful. And site security is really important to us, just because these facilities, if they go down even for an hour, right, that's a huge impact to the business in a way that is preventable. And through Ignition, we have found a way to be able to secure that in a way that's natural. It's the way the systems are supposed to be built.
Wow. And let me ask you this, because you're here at ICC. It's not over, man. You got tomorrow, you got today, the rest of today, you got tomorrow. What are you hoping to get as takeaways before you head out from ICC?
Yeah, so my biggest goal here is to meet the right people in the right place. And what that means for us right now is really looking for individuals or teams that are specialized in developing Ignition Perspective first, and then the PLC side secondary.
Okay. So what you're looking for is dynamic developers. It sounds to me like you're interested in making sure whatever they develop has to be a great user experience, a definite UI with a powerful backend, right? And you want to enhance the digital experience, right?
And the capabilities of scaling that.
Yes. So I think one of the things you run into is you have lots of integrators. They're good at 2 things: SCADA platform or building panels. But it is very difficult. I agree. It is difficult to find the right partner in selection, a partner that can deliver just really great user interface, really valuable user experience, and really valuable digital fluency in whatever they're giving you. I think that's you're right. I think it is a challenge to find that, but there are some great folks here. There are some great what I call integrators. They're going to be on the show actually. We've got there's Corso Systems. We've got another one which is called Flexware Innovations. These are award-winning few that are the premier integrators with Ignition, and they've done lots of projects that way. So they're here. You can definitely find them, and we're happy to meet you. And Brian, I wish I could keep you here, man, and I can't. Otherwise, we can keep going.
Oh, I know.
And we are so glad to have you on the show. We appreciate your experience here at ICC 2025. And we hope that you and your team will like and subscribe to the Energy Tech Podcast. And with that, I am your co-host, Mike, right here in the heart of Sacramento at ICC 2025. And Brian, appreciate you coming on with us and sharing your experience here at ICC, man.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Appreciate it.
Awesome. It was great.